What's good, everybody? Justin Gaethje's out until next year, he said, right? Paddy Pimblett just fought. Charles dominated Max and took no damage. It's not confirmed, but hey, man, I think there's rumors we might get to see a rematch we've been waiting for very, very soon. UFC 331 is going to take place in Los Angeles, and with the sheer amount of Armenians we got, I would be surprised if we don't get to see Arman Tsarukyan on that card, all right? My money is Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira for the BMF belt. You know, we've had some Russian sources confirm. I don't know the legitimacy of them, but this matchup has got me excited. I feel like me and a lot of UFC fans have been waiting for this ever since UFC 330. How close that fight was, that split decision. And yeah, man, for all of you guys getting mad that this is probably for a BMF belt, you got to put on the Fell for it again badge, bro. This belt was always made for this purpose. It's just made to make us feel like numbered events have a title fight at the top, right? It's basically like, oh, let's make a kind of number one contender belt. And that's what this was. It was never anything that Dana told you it was going to be. It was never the baddest motherfuckers. This guy fought that. It's Nate Diaz versus Masvidal, bro. Like, two low-key bums of the division. Then it went to Dustin Poirier. Then it went to Justin Gaethje, right? They're all events we don't really care about that much. But it's just to make us feel a little bit better, you know, about you know, back in the day paying $50 for this card or however much it was. I don't know if it's my love for these two fighters or the fact that I'm just desensitized from consuming UFC slop every weekend, but I think if they make this in Los Angeles and this is the main event and they build a good enough card around it, hey man, this might be better than the Conor card, you know? Conor's old ass coming up there. Like, at least we know we're going to get a banger fight that won't end in injury in the main event, all right? Whether this happens or not, whether we get Charles and Arman too, I'm here to break down exactly why I think this time around Charles Oliveira is going to take this one home. On some British shit, it's coming home, lads. So let's get right into the first fight. How did Arman win the first time? So, the good and the bad, right? The good, Arman Tsarukyan, he's always super well conditioned, you know, he's never beating the ab-etching allegations, but he never gassed out the whole fight, whole 3 rounds, was always high pace, high pressure, and we know his conditioning is always going to hold out, right? On the feet, he outstruck Oliveira barely, right? I think it was more of those things where it's the higher volume from Arman Tsarukyan versus the higher impact and maybe the higher stopping power of Charles Oliveira. You could make a case that Charles did more damage on the feet for the little amount of time they were up there, but still, I think you could give this one to Arman. He outstruck Oliveira on the feet for the little amount of time they were up there. When he wrestled, right, he never stopped scrambling until he felt he was in a good position, right? So he never just settled, you know, side control, and this comes into the conditioning thing I mentioned earlier. He never just settled in side control or in half guard. He was never in bottom half guard, any bullshit like that. He was always scrambling to get to a position where he wasn't in maybe in immediate danger. Another thing I think he did well was on the ground, he never let Oliveira work when he was in dominant position, right? He was always, you know, if Oliveira was in mount, if Oliveira was in side control, top half guard, you know, maybe even the guard, you know, you consider Oliveira's guard a dominant position for him. He was always kipping out, always making some sort of effort either to land ground and pound or to just get out of that position. And then again, ground and pound, the few ground and pound strikes that were really clean and that were thrown, you know, and that actually hit Charles, they were elbows. They were sharp elbows that cut open Oliveira and like created visible damage, which for sure influenced the judge's decision, right? At least 2 of the 3 judges that gave Arman Tsarukyan that fight. Now, let's go on to the bad, all right? What did Arman mess up? Now, I think we can all remember these moments from this fight. Maybe not the second round triangle, but I'll talk about it in a second. This dude, Arman, threw himself into way too many submissions, bro. There was not enough respect for being in the guard of Oliveira or for shooting sloppily on Oliveira, and he ended up having to rely on his late submission defense. We know this guy has great late submission defense, right? Against Dan Hooker, against, who else did he fight? Against anyone that's like ever gotten a guillotine on him, this guy just spins out of it, whatever. But he always relies on these late submission attempts, and we saw, right, in the first round, he got out of a guillotine because his pants fell off, bro. His pants genuinely fell off. Oliveira couldn't like pull with his legs anymore. Had that not happened, I don't think he's getting out of that guillotine, right? Even if it's an Arman guillotine, he's not getting out of that shit, right? At the end of the second round, there was one of the tightest triangles I've ever seen. Look at that angle. You can barely see Arman Tsarukyan's head in there. His arm is already hyperextended over Oliveira's hip. Oliveira's cut the angle. Like, there's no breathing room. This is one of the tightest triangles that hasn't been finished that I've ever seen, right? He got put into that with like 3 seconds left. Oliveira was adjusting it. Like, he didn't have enough time to fully adjust it. But man, you saw when Arman got out of that shit, he was like, oof. Thank fuck the round ended, right? And then lastly, in the third round, he got put maybe the last 20 seconds of the round. Oliveira threatened him with a guillotine, right? I think it was an Arman guillotine again. And then he went into the darts. He didn't chase it too hard, again, because it was the end of the fight. He was probably a little bit gassed, and he decided just to aura farm a little bit on Arman Tsarukyan. But these were all submissions that were very close. They were very effective. You could tell by the reaction of Arman Tsarukyan that these were having an impact on him. And in general, he just stayed too long in the guard of Oliveira, right? It's true. His ground and pound is very effective, and that's one of the best positions to be in, right? There's top half guard, there's being in the guard, and there's being in mount. Like, there's not that many really better places to be if you're ground and pounding your opponent. But man, doing that with Oliveira over 3 rounds and over 5 rounds, if this is a 5-round main event, is not going to be good, bro. And you could tell with his ground and pound that he was really hesitant. He wasn't really opening up like he usually does, how he did it against Joel Alvarez or against that random Brazilian jobber that he beat. You could tell that he did not want to put himself in danger, and he knew, right, that these things were coming. All right. So what are Arman's key to victory winning this fight again? We have to say, like, we have to go over the obvious. This guy's not submitting Oliveira, right? This guy was barely able to submit Dan Hooker. One of the fucking, just like squeezed on one of these fucking head and arm triangle chokes that, in my opinion, one of the most overrated chokes in jiu-jitsu, MMA, whatever, because it gasses the fuck out of you. And everyone always tells you to dismount, right? Dismount into side control to make it tighter, which does make it tighter. But if you just give your back, it's kind of just the choke is off. And if you can delay giving your back as long as possible, the guy's arms kind of get gassed. It's not really the best choke, and we've seen his submission ability isn't really the best of the best. Definitely not enough to submit Charles Oliveira. He's not pull no Islam shit, right? Now, another thing, he's not going to one-shot KO Charles, right? He's never going to get a KO over Charles because Arman is not Ilya, right? And Charles is not Beneil, right? This guy's not getting chinned like that. He got chinned against Ilya. That's the GOAT, you know, shit happens, right? Lastly, I don't think Arman is going to ground and pound TKO Charles Oliveira, although some of you guys might say that that's the way Arman gets a finish in this fight. Being in that position against Charles, you know, being in the mount, Charles is going to get out of the mount. Being in the guard, it's too dangerous to posture up and open up like that. You're going to get armbarred. You're going to get triangled. I don't really see a TKO from Arman, definitely not in this fight, definitely not if it's 5 rounds. So I think the only real way for him to get a victory is to win by close decision, like it was, right, in the first fight. Staying very safe, trying to rack up control time, this isn't that. That's what I think would happen, but that's just not going to slide this time, bro. What are Oliveira's key to victory, all right? We saw from that Gamrot fight, Oliveira was so willing to maintain and to engage in the guard with a wrestler. We saw that he did not like develop a fear, did not develop any sort of hesitance to doing that after that Arman Tsarukyan fight. And this time, he was throwing up on omoplatas and other really good submissions that are great for like staving off wrestlers, because wrestlers are really good getting the fight to the mat, but sometimes they tend to get careless, you know, leaving their limbs behind, leaving their feet behind, leaving this and that, leaving their shoulders exposed. He was throwing up really good stuff against Gamrot. And in that fight, I think is the most important thing that we have to touch on, is that we saw a lot of movement from Oliveira from the front headlock to the back, right? In the Tsarukyan fight, when he got a bite on a guillotine, when he got a bite on a darce, whatever, he would always like commit to it, almost always commit to it 100%, unless Arman was already almost at his back or something like that. He would usually always commit to these chokes. But we saw in that Gamrot fight, he started, you know, pushing those a little bit to the side and getting to the back. That's how he ended up finishing Gamrot, right? He got to the back, locked up like a jaw-crushing rear naked choke, ended up tapping Gamrot in the second fight. And in the Max fight, we saw the same shit. He was getting into those good positions. He wasn't forcing any sloppy chokes. He was getting to the back, racking up control time, and just basically like taking the back of a wrestler, which is the best thing you can do against these Gamrot fighters, against these Arman Tsarukyan fighters, right? We saw also really good improved offensive wrestling. I don't know how much that would play a factor in this fight if they fought again. I don't know if Charles would try to shoot on Arman. But having said all this, man, I think his key to victory is really the improved wrestling and the improved like willingness, like the game planning, basically. The improved willingness to go and get to the back. I think Arman's going to have to pick his poison between standing too long on the feet with Charles Oliveira or shooting and risking, you know, getting his neck taken. On the feet, like I said, I believe that they will exchange for a good amount of time. I think they'll be up there for a little bit, but Arman will eventually level change, either in response to getting cracked with like a really big right hand or left hand of Charles Oliveira, or just to like establish the threat, right? And I think that's where the fight really ends. I think when the moment Arman Tsarukyan shoots his first or maybe second takedown, I think we get another front headlock choke, right? But this time, Charles is not going to commit to them in their first fight. He's going to get the front headlock choke. He's going to sprawl out. Arman Tsarukyan is going to be put on his knees, put in the turtle position. And this time, maybe as Arman Tsarukyan starts to try to defend the choke he expects to come on, Charles really quickly just circles to the back. You know, jiu-jitsu guys are really good for getting to the back really quickly. And he gets in his hooks, he gets in a body triangle maybe, and starts pushing for the choke. We haven't really seen Arman display the greatest back defense, because I don't think anyone in the UFC has taken his back or seriously threatened a back choke. But based on how he defends the front headlock chokes, I could really easily see him getting really sloppy, maybe trying to spin into a top guard situation where he spins into Charles's guard and now he's not in the back anymore, or he spins and tries to get a hold of an arm and get his back to the mat. I see him trying to get a little bit of a sloppy, maybe panicked back take defense, and then getting himself into a really bad armbar that eventually, one of those arm bars where the guy's grimacing and the crowd is going crazy, and Joe Rogan's, oh, he's gonna tap, oh, that's tight, he's gonna break that arm. One of those kind of arm bars, and then transitioning it to a triangle. I think that's what's gonna happen. I think we're gonna get a round 2 triangle submission. I can see it really clearly where, as I said, Arman Tsarukyan shoots, Charles Oliveira threatens a choke, sprawls him out, takes the back, right? Arman Tsarukyan tries to sloppily get out of the back control, gets himself into an armbar. Armbar transitions into a triangle. And it's going to happen in the middle of the round. There's not going to be a timer. And if Arman gets caught in that triangle that he got caught in the second round, it's over, bro. Literally the only thing stopping that triangle was the time running out. And that's exactly what happened, right? Or someone throwing a banana peel in the cage or a brick and it hits Charles Oliveira and knocks him out. That's the only way Arman Tsarukyan is getting out of that triangle. I cannot get this image of that second round triangle choke out of my mind. That shit was so tight. So yeah, man. Let me know what you guys think. I think this is a Charles Oliveira masterclass submission in the second round to upset Arman Tsarukyan. I think Arman will be the favorite going to this fight. It's going to be a 150 favorite to a plus 110 underdog, something like that. And I see Oliveira getting the second round submission, gets up crying, goes into the crowd. We all love to see Charles Oliveira win, and then gets a title shot against Justin Gaethje early 2027. All right? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go help my dad move some shit into a car. All right? Ciao.